Very good evening and welcome. You're watching the India Development Debate. I'm Tamanna Inamdar. We're talking about a report which has led to some concern about whether we're going to have a shortfall in the monsoon this year round and what the impact could be. Private agency Skymet has come out with its forecast, the second actually in a few months, which has said that we could be seeing lesser than expected rainfall. Now here's what's happened. India has had 4 consecutive years of good monsoons, and overall rainfall from 2019 to 2022 has actually been higher than expectation thanks to something called the La Nina. But the country is likely to receive below normal rains in 2023 as El Nino takes over from La Nina. The weather agency Skymet has made this prediction that the monsoon in 2023 will be below normal at 868.6 millimeters for the 4-month period from June to September. Rainfall in India is precariously related to agriculture. The last 4 years has seen bountiful agricultural produce, but with a subpar monsoon prediction, are we ready for a contingency plan? What could be the impact? We're going to be discussing that on the show today. To speak more on this, I'm joined now by G P Sharma, President of Skymet, Garima Kapoor, Chief Economist at Elara Capital, and Siraj Hussain, former Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture. So welcome to all of you. Let me begin with you, Mr. Sharma, and what this Skymet prediction actually entails. It would be great to get some kind of detail. Are we now, without a doubt, set for a below par monsoon?
You see, Tamanna, Skymet issues its comprehensive forecast every time, sometime around this time, between 10th and 15th April. So this is the normal forecast which we come out with. Earlier in the month of January, we had given a foreshadow wherein we did say that it's likely to be a subpar monsoon because it was too early to read the monsoon. But then as we come closer, possibly month of April, I think it gives you an idea as to how is it going to be. And particularly in this situation, when the El Nino is definitely coming up in a big way, I will say, halfway through the season. 4 years, we have enjoyed good monsoon season. Out of 4 years, 3 were above normal, actually, including the last year. So we are in a different phase, monsoon cycle, but then which is going to break possibly now and then change track to below normal monsoon after a long gap. El Nino conditions, in any case, you can start guessing it with the help of the models right in the beginning of the year, which we also did. And as you come closer, yes, in the month of April, it authenticates, it confirms your earlier readings as to what is there in store. And it looks like that the El Nino conditions, they are building now. By the time the monsoon starts, we will have almost about 45% of its share, El Nino share, and more of a neutral at that time. But then by the time we transition to halfway through the season, we have more of El Nino and the other one reducing as such. So the impact will grow.
Just if I can ask a quick follow-up, Mr. Sharma, and
yeah.
In terms of that our viewers can also understand who aren't experts in the field like you are, at this point, because I remember we had a conversation after your earlier prediction as well, and I recall at that time we talked about how you'll have a more definitive idea by April. At this point, is it an inevitability that we're going to be seeing this El Nino effect and we'll be seeing that impact of a subpar monsoon?
El Nino is there. It is a real scare, I will say, at the moment. El Nino in the past, as I said, 75-80% of the occasion, it has spoiled our monsoon. It has corrupted our monsoon rainfall, seasonal rainfall, even as much as it has led to drought in about 60% cases. There are a small portion, yes, about 15% of them, wherein in spite of the monsoon, in spite of El Nino, we had normal monsoon. There are cases, but they are rather few. Okay, that to decode entirely the challenge of El Nino, which is there, that we have not still built up that capacity and capability. Okay, but then invariably, since the phenomena is associated with inadequate, insufficient rains over the Indian subcontinent. So we go with this premise that presence of El Nino, and particularly so when the other factors are not favoring with a lot of force, etc. The other factor which I talk about, Indian Ocean dipole and the other things, oceanic parameters. So they are not having any extraordinarily role in this monsoon. So going alone by El Nino, it is definitely looks like that it's going to be a subpar monsoon. To start with, we have given a below a normal, that is about 94% with a model error of plus minus 5%. But we keep tracking it very, very closely, and variations, if any course correction is required, that comes in at a later date. It could become even worse than this also, which we have given now. But that will come a little later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it could get worse than this. I think that's important, and understanding the impact of El Nino, which is a phenomenon that impacts many, many countries, not just India, is important. But India is particularly sensitive, and which is why we need to understand. I'm going to come to you first, Mr. Hussain, that what this means for us. Already, you've had some disruption in your March crops. Excessive heat waves have also been predicted. What does this kind of a possibility of a subpar monsoon mean for us, and also the context that in the last 4 years, yes, monsoon has been good in overall, millimeters of rainfall, but the way it's come in, scattered, sometimes heavy, sometimes less, has already been disruptive to the agricultural cycle, isn't it?
Tamanna, we must appreciate that monsoon science is still not a perfect science. And therefore, whatever forecast Skymet or IMD make, it is not necessary that monsoon will accordingly behave. I remember the year in which I was Secretary of Agriculture, 2015, and the Skymet said that monsoon will be 102%. It turned out to be 86% only. Similarly, in 2019, the predictions went very wrong, and therefore Skymet decided in 2020 not to issue a forecast. Therefore, we should remember that these forecasts are based on certain parameters, experience, models, but it is not necessary that monsoon will behave accordingly. Last year, nobody had predicted that UP, Bihar, West Bengal, etc. will have 25 to 30% deficiency in monsoon. So we must prepare for shortfall in rains, but we must not be unduly perturbed about forecasts which give you a broad pattern due to El Nino, but we do not know how the distribution will ultimately turn out to be.
Having said that, and I'm going to give an opportunity to Mr. Sharma to respond to that, because you've specifically mentioned 2 cases where Skymet prediction has gone wrong. So I'll come to you for the follow-up, but Mr. Sharma, would you like to respond to some of those points?
See, these are as he also said that these are the predictions, model-based predictions. Okay, it is not a complete science, all right. That is how the variations are there. But the look at Mr. Siraj Hussain. He has counted the Skymet forecast which has been given. What about the National Weather Agency? Look at this. You see the past records. It has gone off the mark also, in spite of all those infrastructure which is available. So it can go, okay? But then bad cases also. You took 2017, we said it should 95%, it was on dot 95%, okay? So there are cases, variation are going to be there. Models don't tell you the exact number as such, okay? That we go into the model products, whatever the output is there, and then see as to what is the best figure which is there. Yes, all the models will wait. There is no consensus amongst all. There is no single model running for the monsoon forecast. There are a number of models. Every model will give you a different one. But then what strategy you adopt, how you forecast, what have you been doing in the past, we go with that. Otherwise, all the models, they will show us different results also. Everyone is not giving. Some models are giving even a drought at the moment also, okay, which we have not adopted. we have gone for a below normal monsoon. But then the very few of them, the range of model which we have, whether it's a statistical model or the dynamical models, both they are in agreement at the moment that it should be.
It's important to see. Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, weather prediction, it cannot be an accurate science, or it isn't, especially for the monsoon so far. We need to see directionally what the reports are saying, and we're looking like we're in for trouble. Having said that, Mr. Hussain, let me come back to you with my essential question. How dire is this in the Indian context?
It may not turn out to be very dire. We don't know. The answer to your question is we don't know what will be the distribution of monsoon. You see, even the deficiency of a couple of percentage, 4-5%, would not matter much if the distribution, spatial distribution and the timely distribution is not too bad. So if rainfall continues to come in batches, rain today, then no rainfall for 4-5 days, another round of rainfall, etc., then the crop should be fine. What has been happening in the last few years, and which is not captured, in discussions like this, is the extremely high rainfall in a few days of time, which shows that at the end of the season, it shows that the rainfall was normal. But then it was not really normal because the distribution was very skewed. So we have to wait and watch, and at the same time, we have to prepare, especially for regions which receive lower rainfall, Marathwada, for example, interior Karnataka, etc. We have to be prepared with seeds of alternative crops, etc., so that in case of deficient rainfall, the farmers can be provided alternative seeds so that they can harvest some crop.
All right, let me come to you, Garima Kapoor, and we're starting with the assumption and the basis of a very credible organization like Skymet putting out its prediction right now for a below par monsoon. I want to understand what the impact is for us economically, specifically considering that the RBI in its latest MPC meet outcome has hit the pause button but said our next action depends on data. In that context, what does a subpar monsoon mean?
Okay. The most important implication could be from the context of inflation. And given that RBI's estimates in terms of projection are assuming a normal monsoon, they're still not factoring the El Nino in the estimates for the estimates for FY24 CPI projections. So what could happen is that it could actually move the needle when it comes to food inflation. More than anticipation of a subpar monsoon, what worries me right now is that we have had inclement weather-related disturbances, and we're already experiencing a massive impact on the standing crop, whether it's wheat, mustard, or other horticulture products. So even before the impact of inclement weather, even impact of El Nino is felt through, for the Kharif, for the summer crop, we will actually see its impact being felt in the Rabi crop. Already your harvest is delayed. Most estimates are putting the damage to anywhere between 10 to 15% in key wheat growing areas. So we are likely to see a spike in food prices, not just of cereals, but also that of various horticulture products. The one is the aspect of inflation. So I said the one we are looking at an impact related to not just El Nino related impact on the summer crops, but also the inclement recent weather related impact on the Rabi or the winter crop. So we're going to have a double whammy of sorts. The other thing also, remember, we entered this inclement related weather impact on relatively high cereal inflation. Recollect, it was not even less than a month ago that government has released 3 million tons of wheat in the open market to suppress the wheat prices. So already we were in a tight situation when it comes to stocks. On top of it, we do not have a good news when it comes to your Rabi crop, particularly on the front of wheat as well as mustard. And then there's going to be third impact in terms of your weak monsoon if El Nino impact plays out severely, which could also impact your summer crop. So if last year was the year where global dynamics impacted your prices of food grains, that including that of India, this time it could be domestic aspects that could really amplify its impact, particularly inflation. And it worries because RBI is estimating that with normal monsoon in the FY24 projections, and there is no impact of El Nino that is factored in. The other aspect that could not bode very well for rural India particularly is that we are entering these weather-related disturbances which will be impacting agricultural output on the backdrop of relatively weak rural demand. Now, last year when we had a preponement of heat wave, remember the prices on the ground were very good. The wholesale prices were attractive in most markets of India. The wholesale prices were above MSP. Currently, the wholesale prices are below MSP in most markets. On top of it, there has been a damage. So neither are you getting good price, nor your output is expected to be as good as you anticipated. So there is going to be their impact of sorts on income as well. Now, what this will do is probably the anticipation of recovering rural India that everybody was hoping for is probably going to get delayed in the backdrop of what's happening. So, not just inflation, it is also an impact on growth, particularly the rural demand.
Yeah, that's really a very significant concern. Mr. Hussain, what is the kind of preparation we need to do? Because these forecasts are out there right now. Is there something that we can do on a policy level to mitigate the impact?
The government has drought action plans for almost all the districts of India. These plans are quite detailed and they are prepared by CREDA, which is an institute under ICAR. But you see, my interaction with the officers in the government tells me that they do not anticipate the pessimism expressed by my dear friend Garima. They say that even though there is damage to wheat crop in some areas, but overall they still think that wheat production is likely to exceed 108, 109 million tons. Similarly, last year, there was deficient monsoon to the extent of 25 to 30% in UP, Bihar, Bengal, etc. And yet, we saw that the procurement is going to touch 50 million tons. So I think on the food security front, we are fine. But of course, there may be some inflationary trend. Over the next 2 or 3 weeks, this situation will become more clear. Either if the crop is good, then the prices will be...
My question does not, hinge on whether this will happen or not. If this does happen, what do we need to do? I understand you say that this is not a done deal. We may still have, a decent amount of monsoon. Our crops will be fine. But if we are, in fact, impacted with El Nino, then what next?
As I said, the government has the action plan for almost all the districts of India. And in case of lower monsoon, some paddy growing areas will shift to pulses. They will shift to moon crop, for example, which requires less water.
Okay.
They will shift to coarse grains, which require less water. The government is doing a good job in promoting coarse grains. Of course, there are certain, additional decisions which should be taken. But then I think the government will be able to handle a shortfall in monsoon. In any case, the shortfall being projected by Skymet is not very high. If the distribution is good, then I think we should be fine.
Okay, let's hope for that there will be a decent distribution of rain and it will be fine. But at the current moment, shortfall in monsoon and then an impact on rural demand is truly the last thing we need. With all things weather, we can only hope for the best. Thank you so much, G P Sharma, Siraj Hussain and Garima Kapoor for joining us today.